Approximately 5 months ago, I started my ordeal with what I didn't know at the time was avascular necrosis. As it relates to the hand, it's called Kienbock's disease. The reason I am documenting this on video is because when the diagnosis first came to me, I didn't know what it was. And naturally, I went online, looked it up, saw a bunch of YouTube videos, Wikipedia, went to WebMD, went to many places online to try to make sense of what it was that I was diagnosed with. My ordeal started in April 18th. That day I went to the hospital and I complained to my doctor about pain in both my hands. And she sent me to x-ray. 5 x-rays were taken on each of my hands. But unfortunately, I was never given the result of the x-rays. My doctor's father passed away, and she had to fly back to Vietnam, and she couldn't get back to me. So I never received the results. On April 24th, 6 days later, it's a Monday, I was at work. And one of my coworkers came and asked me a question. I grabbed the mouse and I was just doing this with the mouse. And all of a sudden, a ligament popped. And I have many ligaments pop, and I know it just goes, and you can hear it. It's a very excruciating pain. And I knew that something had popped, but I thought it was on this side. That's where I felt, actually that's where the pain was. I want to say, before I get too deep into this video, that I'm not recommending anybody to do anything. If you are watching this video, it's because you probably have or have been diagnosed with avascular necrosis or Kienbock's disease. I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice, I'm just telling you my story. And even if I say I recommend you do something, it's just, my disclaimer is for entertainment purposes. Please seek a professional. So, having said that, at about 10 p.m. the pain was just unbearable. So I picked up the phone and I called the advice nurse. I explained my problem to her. I even told her that I felt embarrassed, that a pain like that was almost sending me to the emergency room. She asked me if I could, take a Tylenol or something. So I did have, at the time I had already taken an 800 milligram Tylenol. It's very strong for you guys who don't take Tylenols or any pain pills. It's a very strong pill. So I took the pill, went back to bed, finally managed to fall asleep. I had an appointment made with that nurse, and the next day in the morning I went to the hospital. I was seen by this doctor who immediately sent me to x-ray. So I went to x-rays, and as I'm waiting outside the x-rays room, my doctor calls me, the original doctor whose father has passed on. And she apologized and told me, I couldn't get back to you because, she told me the story that, her father passed and she had to leave. And I told her, don't worry, doctor. As a matter of fact, I am right now outside the x-rays, the x-ray room. I went inside the x-rays. They took another 5 x-rays of each hand. And I went home. They gave me gout pills. The next day, they sent me an email and they told me that the x-rays show that I had avascular necrosis. So they sent me 2 days later to the MRI. Now we are on April 27th, so this is about 9 days after I originally went to my first doctor complaining of pain. The MRI was the most painful thing. That thing was just disgusting how painful it was. And I had MRIs before, and they are harmless. But this was not. The tech clamped my hand down, and of course I had a torn ligament, and it was just disgustingly painful. And I endured for 30 minutes, and I knew I had to. So when I got out the next day or so, they confirmed that I had indeed avascular necrosis, or again, Kienbock's disease. Now, I received communications from another doctor saying that he was going to take over my case. And he was, I don't want to say names, I don't want to say positions, I don't want these doctors to retract. Some of them were wonderful, as a matter of fact, all of them. But this doctor called me up and says, I need you in my office, come over here. So I went back to the office, and I had not gone back to work, I believe. The pain, I mean, at this point, I am in a lot of pain. And I missed 2 weeks of work. Because the ligament tore at work, this was originally treated as a work-related injury. But I was going through my own personal doctor. So I went to see this doctor. By now, Dr. A will have been my original, my personal doctor. Dr. B is the doctor that I went to as an urgent appointment. Let's call him Dr. C then. Dr. C tells me, he showed me the x-rays, he showed me the MRIs, and he spoke to me about Kienbock's disease, which I already had done some research. He told me what were the options. The options didn't sound good at all. It was the removal of 3 bones. Luckily for me, because the injury started at work, the workman comp department of Kaiser called me up and said, you need to come to us. Your personal doctor doesn't count in this equation because we need to do the diagnostics ourselves. We gotta treat it as a work injury, and that's how you're going to get benefits. I need to get paid for not being at work. So I went to Dr. D. I will say she's probably, in her 60s, mid-60s or so. And she came into the room and immediately told me, you're my first one. I have never seen this. And she went on to explain to me that she had to look up what Kienbock's disease was. I spoke to other doctors. Many of these people had never heard or seen it. And I was like the big old monkey in the circus. Everybody is just watching, this guy. So she gave me a work, I don't know, like limited duty. That's what it's called. So she gave me limited duty at work, and she told me I need you to come back in 2 weeks for another reassessment. So she was going to be rechecking me every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks she will continue to extend or stop completely the limited workload. At the same time, Dr. C calls me to his office and talks to me and tells me we are going to set a date for surgery. He did a quick recheck on my hands. I remember I even drew when my appointment was probably at 10 in the morning. I went to work at 8 in the morning, and every time something hurt, I will just draw with a Sharpie, and within an hour, this side of my hand, all of this, and especially all of that, was completely red. And on the left side, I had exactly the same marks as I did on my right hand, just not as intense. Kienbock's disease affects only 0.5% of the total population of the world of people between the ages of 20 and 40. So we're talking about a very small segment of the population. I don't know, I'm calculating maybe 5 million people, 10 million people in the world. And of course, I am outside that group, that 20 to 40s. I am 52. But I am still thinking, yes, because what I do, my work, it has affected me somehow. So we set a surgery appointment for September. No, it was for August, but I had engagements in all of August. So I said, no, September 8th. So September 8th is the date for surgery. So that today is September 9. I haven't had surgery. Dr. D, when I went back for the second checkup with her, I told her, Dr. D, this is really painful. My left hand it has the same thing. I know it. And I actually told Dr. C that I had it because I drew everything that day. And he told me, no, you only have arthritis there. Never mind. When I went to Dr. D, she told me, I need you to be there, in the head, all there, for your surgery. You cannot be thinking that you have this other phantom disease. You cannot be thinking of anything. You need to focus on healing your right hand. But she, being the awesome doctor that she is, she told me, but just to keep your head sane, I am going to send you to x-rays. So I went to x-rays. Same day, at approximately 5 p.m., I get a call from Dr. D, and she told me, you have a vascular necrosis in both hands. I took this disease kind of like in stride, but when she called me, it was like punch to the gut. Now we're talking about the removal of 3 bones in each hand. The procedure itself was just incomprehensible to me. How is it that we remove 3 bones and we don't put anything in? We're talking about just the complete removal. We're not talking about the replacement of bones with a cadaver bone or with something synthetic. We're talking about just completely removing the bones. And what happens, as it was explained to me, since the bones get removed from here, my whole hand actually collapses into that space. And of course I lose motion. I wouldn't lose my fingers, but I would lose some of this motion and this lateral motion, up to 70%. And I'm thinking that's both hands. So that kind of, I wouldn't say depressed me, because I'm not the kind of person that depresses, but yes, I did feel down for a little while. So Dr. D came back to me and says, look, so I went back to see her. She told me, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to refer you to Dr. E, because you need another opinion. She told me, we are talking about replacing nothing. We're talking about throwing bones in the garbage. And she didn't feel that it was right for any one doctor, no matter how experienced and how awesome they were, to just go ahead and do it and not have even another opinion. Now, keep in mind that I have gone through, now Dr. E would be the 5th doctor. But she wanted it. She insisted, and Dr. E is a plastic surgeon who specializes in the hand. Dr. D is an orthopedist who specializes in microsurgery at the nerve level, also in the hand. So they are both eminence in their fields. But when I went to Dr. E, I experienced something that was quite honestly shocking. The doctor came in and sat down for an hour and 30 minutes with me. There was a table between him and I. My hands were laying And he was going through every single slice on the MRIs and every single X-ray and explaining to me every single thing that he saw and what he didn't see. And he told me something that was very interesting, that yes, I indeed have avascular necrosis in both hands. But also, lucky me, I also had something called Piso-Triquetral arthritis, ulnocarpal impaction syndrome. The Piso-Triquetral is these bones under the hand. And immediately when he said that, I figured we are on the right track, because this is the area that hurts and hurts and hurts. It never ends. And we're not talking about replacing a diagnosis with another. The diagnostic of Kienbock's disease was still there. We're talking about now we are adding diseases. So the ulnar, which is this long bone here, according to Dr. E, was putting too much pressure on the Piso-Triquetral joint, and that was making him collapse. Now, so that we go back a little bit and we understand what this necrosis is. With this bone here, because it dies, essentially dies, it receives no blood. The bone eventually becomes so dry, like if you ever get a chicken bone and you just leave it laying around there for a few days after you ate it, you forgot to throw it, that bone becomes so dry and brittle. So what happens is that the bones on the side, as I move this way, these two bones are creating a lot of friction and pressure on the bone in the middle, and they are breaking that bone. So the bone will eventually collapse and break and just shatter. The bone in the middle itself, because it's so dry and it's beginning to cut, it also becomes jagged, and it starts to cut the ones on the side, and that creates all that pain. And the reason why this bone cannot be removed on its own and leaving the two on the side is because if this bone is removed, since there is no replacement right now, what will happen is that the four bones that are here on the top, they will just become unstable and basically fall in and collapse, and my whole hand will be very unstable, very dangerous. So to avoid that, all the three bones need to be cut out, and all these four bones on the top, they just fall in, making my hand shorter. So that's why the surgery requires the removal of the three bones. But Dr. E now is talking about a new procedure. We're talking about the ulnar bone, and what he is suggesting is we're either going to cut right here. That's the bone. This bone ends in this knob that we all have. I don't know if you can see it right there. Some of us have it more than others, but it's right there. So he's suggesting to cut that, maybe that much, I don't know, and from some other part of the bone, cut a piece, rebuild it over here, and essentially leave this bone a little shorter, which creates a space for the Piso-Triquetral bones. But also he tells me there's a possibility. We remove the Piso-Triquetral bone. Now this is for the ulnar impactation syndrome. The Piso-Triquetral bone can actually be removed. Now, leave it up to doctors to figure this out. Nothing goes in. Everything that I'm talking about is just removing and throwing bones in the garbage. So it says we can consider that. But he starts to see some anomalies as he is looking into the MRIs and the X-rays. And he tells me that while I do indeed have Kienbock's disease, the picture shows that my disease is growing on the wrong side. If you can imagine that the bone is dying from this side toward that side, that would be the natural progression of the disease. In my case, it's dying from here to there. Now, I may have the size backwards because I'm talking to the camera, but my bone is dying from the wrong end, essentially. So he looks at this very suspiciously. And he also, going back to the MRI, he shows me and he tells me, you see all of this white? That is liquid. And the bone should not have liquid. Everything around, all the other bones show black on the MRI except for this guy. So the presence of liquid is not understood to Dr. E, because he's telling me if the bone is dead, there should be nothing in there. So he proposes this plan. He's going to shoot me through the wrist in the Piso-Triquetral joint, which is right here, and it does hurt. So he's going to shoot me right here on both hands. And trust me, that thing hurts. The plan is, and it's in the family of cortisone, what he's shooting me with. I don't know exactly what it is, but it wasn't cortisone, but it's in the family. The plan is to create essentially a pillow around that bone. We encapsulate that bone with all this liquid and releases the pressure that this bone is under. And because it has no pressure, if the bone is alive, it will then react. And probably if it is inflamed, it will go back to normal. A dead bone cannot do that. So that is the working theory. So he shoots me through both wrists. The next day, the same day, that was in the morning, I went to work in the afternoon. I was in complete agony. My hands are shaking. I was to the point of tears. So I went home. There have not been a day since the original date where I was not in just a lot of pain. The reason I'm not hurting as much right now is because I went back after the 2 shots. I went back 3 weeks later. And he told me that he didn't consider, he told me when I got in, I need to hurt you today. I need to actually make you scream because I want to make 100% sure that what I'm about to suggest is actually appropriate, that my diagnosis is correct. So he went at my bone and he came at it and he was putting pressure and pushing me and just moving it and it hurt me. And I told him, doctor, that never hurts. It's here. Sure enough, he came back and just barely touched me and I was jumping. So he told me, okay, so that confirms my theory. He gave me shots again. And it hurts just to touch it. He gave me shots again, and that was maybe 10 days ago. Just to last me long enough to the surgery. My surgery is going to be on the 13th this month, so in 4 more days. He is going to remove the Piso-Triquetral bone, which is this bone right there. It's just going to be removed, thrown in the garbage. Now, many people have asked me, so what's going on here? You just remove a bone, you're going to have a hole there. No, it will fill over time with scar tissue. Amazingly enough, scar tissue will fill the void, so I'm not going to have a hole. That's just, I understand it. I don't know. I still do have necrosis, but it's not in the advanced disease that it was suspected to be. So after this surgery and the removal of this bone, this other bone on the other hand is going to be removed. I'm going to be in a cast here for a while. Once I fully recover, then we're going to have surgery on my left hand, have that removed. And in the meantime, every 6 months, both my hands are going to be x-rayed and MRI to monitor the state of the necrosis. Once the bone starts to shrink, the bones will come out. So it's not that I am replacing the surgery. The surgery is just being delayed. And I think it's appropriate. I think it's the correct move because it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. So I am going to have the surgery, and in the future, sometime in the future, I will have the surgery that removes the 3 bones, the surgery for Kienbock's disease. That brings me to the actual point, the conclusion of this video. Why this video? Why a video this long? As I saw on YouTube, and as I saw and I read the stories of other people, I noticed how blessed and fortunate I am to actually have had a Dr. A, a B, a C, a D, and an E. Because I had doctors checking against doctors. And while it would have been easy to remove those 3 bones, and that was the first thing that everybody jumped up to say, remove those 3 bones. And I am pretty sure that it will have solved the pain issues because it will have relieved the stresses that this bone is under. It will have been too drastic a medicine. So even though at the beginning of the video I do disclaim that my advice is not an actual advice, it's for entertainment purposes only. If you have been diagnosed with this disease, with Kienbock's disease, if it is within your means, if you have the opportunity, have other doctors check it. Have them press yourself, figure out, does it hurt, where does it hurt? Do like I did, Sharpie everywhere, go to the doctor, insist to the doctor. They found necrosis in my other hand because I insisted. They found the Piso-Triquetral problem and the ulnar impactation because the other doctor insisted. Everything was discovered because somebody insisted that something was done about it. I could have easily gone and say, cut it. And I mean, the pain was it's unbearable. It's terrible. But if you do have it, if you do have Kienbock's disease, step back a little bit. Step back a little bit, and yes, very likely that you do have Kienbock's disease. I am very unfortunate. The odds of me having this disease in both hands and having also the ulnar impactation and to have the Piso-Triquetral problem, these are, I don't know, they are astronomical. But if you are in that spot, it doesn't hurt you. Get a second opinion. Because these bones are not being replaced. They're being thrown in the garbage. So keep your hands, my brothers, keep your bones if you can. I will have surgery in 4 days, so wish me luck.